Hi, I'm Connie Whitman, your host, and you're listening to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. You know that I love that you're joining us this week. So my motivational quote is probably by one of the most awesome people that I think has ever lived, and that is Zig Ziglar. He says, money isn't the most important thing in life, but it's reasonably close to oxygen and the gotta have it scale. Now, do you wish you were making more money? The reality is you're not alone. Wanting to earn more money is one of the most popular resolutions people make every year. So what's holding you back? So I'm really excited for my conversation today, and my guest is JimmyG Graham, and we're going to discuss his new book, Master Your Matrix, how to, my gosh, I can't even read my notes. How to use visualization to create a life of health, wealth, and happiness. Sign me up. You will learn the actual science of how your mind works to create your reality, and that you'll learn, and then we'll also learn how to create a better one. I'm excited again for the conversation with Jimmy. Now, Jimmy is a certified hypnotherapist, motivational speaker, mindset success strategist, infotainer. I want to ask him about that. And an international best-selling author. And as a keynote speaker, he has spoken at corporate functions like Cisco, Frito Lay, Home Depot, Motorola, and ReMax, among just to name a few. Now, JimmyG is the founder of MindPower Presentations, Inc., lives in Ontario, Canada. So please help me welcome my amazing, awesome guest, JimmyG, to the show. So, Jimmy, thanks for being on.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to this, Connie. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, and our minds. By the way, I love the title of the book, right? How to Manage Your Matrix. Immediately what I thought of when the information was first sent to me and your book, I thought of The Matrix, the movie, right?
Yes.
And it's all about mind games. That's kind of what we're going to talk about today, right? Everything's going on up here. So
Definitely.
first question. How does visualization work to attract more money in our lives? And I know you're asked this all the time.
Sure. First thing I'd like to start off with is saying that we're visualizing all the time. Every time we're thinking a thought, we're creating a mental picture within our minds. Even if people say, well, I don't see any pictures, you're still creating a connection, a thought process that is forming some sort of visualization within your mind that starts kind of correlating with emotions, and then as you're doing this, you're actually creating an outcome subconsciously. Your subconscious will then go to work on making that a conscious reality. So everybody is visualizing all the time, and that's how, first of all, how we start creating our own reality within our minds first.
So that's interesting thought. First thing that came to my head when you said the subconscious versus the conscious, I've seen images with people talking about the conscious and the subconscious mind, and it's like a iceberg, correct? So the iceberg goes in. We see that top 10%. The bottom 90% is really what's going on at that subconscious level that we're not even aware of. So if we're
Correct.
visualizing, if I'm understanding what you just said, if we're visualizing all the time, we really have to be careful with what's going on up here.
Right. And this is probably the key point within the book, Master Your Matrix, is becoming conscious of what we're subconsciously visualizing. Because just as you eloquently put it, we think we're in control of what's going on, but really we're not. Once we've accepted a thought as a reality, it's kind of put away on the back burner, but then we start operating from those subconscious thoughts as opposed to being consciously aware of, is this a good idea or not? Should I make this decision or should I take this action or not? We tend to start operating on autopilot, so to speak, and that term is used a lot, and everybody just kind of says it frivolously, but it's really, really true. For the listeners out there, I would relate this to what happened when you first learned to drive a car or an automobile, right? When we first learned how to drive, we were consciously aware of everything. I mean, everything was right there. We were so present, our hands on the steering wheel, how to shift, how to brake, how to accelerate it, how to back up, how to go forward. Everything was like, oh my God, it's like, I've got to pay attention here. But then what happens after you've driven for 6 months to a year or more, Now you grab your keys, you go out to the garage, start the car, and then next thing you know, you're at your destination. You don't even know what happened.
That's scary.
Right?
It's true.
This is how most people live their lives as well.
So do you find, see, I'm going to ask a follow-up question now. I'm going to deviate from our pattern here. But do you find that, and I find that I think a lot of people that I speak with live from a place of fear. So once you have whatever that thought is, that subconscious thought, or you have a situation that happens, that now becomes my reality. Now I feel like they look out there and say, well, yep, now that happened. You see, it proves my point. And oh, now that happened. And oh, it's proving my point. Instead of saying, wait a minute, is it really because of things happening out there or is something happening within? Do you find that the case as well with your clients?
Well, we right now in this moment that we're having this interview are living that exact reality. We were talking right before we started the interview about how many people are just going crazy over toilet paper.
Yes.
Toilet paper. It makes no sense to go and hoard toilet paper, yet everyone is doing it. And why? They're not consciously being in the moment going, do I really need 14 packages of toilet paper to last me till next, July? No, we don't. But without being conscious of the reality of what's going on, they subconsciously go into that fight or flight mode and they're seeing everybody else do it. Therefore, they go, well, it proves my point that I need to stock up because look at the shelves, they're empty. So I must get mine too, right? And once again, it gets back to so many people living in a reactive state instead of being in a conscious presence that will step back and go, well, I just checked my bathroom. I've still got 10 rolls from the package I bought last month. I think I'm good.
Absolutely.
I think I'm good.
They think commerce is going to stop. Yes, things are going to get harder to find, but we're not going to go into deprivation where we have nothing available to us. It's illogical. The whole thing has become illogical. So we do live from that place of the subconscious. Do you find that fear is a typical emotion that you see with your clients? On a regular, without the pandemic of coronavirus.
Yes. Just in general.
Yeah, in general. Do you see that?
I really think, and this probably, this still will relate to this coronavirus pandemic that we're currently experiencing. There's always the fear of the unknown. What if? What might happen? I don't know what's going to happen. Therefore, I need to be prepared. I need to be fearful. And it's the fear of the unknown. And we all still operate from like an inner child operating system. Yeah. Now, everybody experienced this when we were maybe 3, 4, 5 years old, and we finally started sleeping in our own bedrooms in our own bed. And what happened when mommy and daddy put us into bed and then shut the lights off? Oh my God, there's a monster in the closet, right? Now, there's no monster in the closet, but because you can't see what's in the closet, then your imagination takes over and invents the monster.
Sure.
This is exactly what we're experiencing right now. It's exactly what any sort of fear that people operate on. They imagine something that really isn't there, but it becomes reality in their subconscious mind, and then they start operating from that reality as opposed to a conscious presence looking out and going, well, hey, I'm fine. I'm sitting in my living room. Everything's great. I had lunch, I'm full. It's all good.
It's all good. And I think we forget it's all good, right? We live from fear instead of the silver lining of, hey, man, it could be worse. Hey, look, I do have this. Hey, I'm healthy. Wow, well, that's a big one.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We forget.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, just to wrap that thought up, something just popping into my mind that I think is sorely lacking within all of this, especially in a fear mode, is that people forget to be grateful for what they still have, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's in a panic mode right now, just for fear, like, oh my God, I'm losing money, I'm losing jobs. I'm going through it too. I'm losing events that I could be at. But at the same time, I have to remind myself, it's like, well, I've got this, I've got that. I've not lost these events. Basically, now they're just postponed, and I flipped it, right? And I've stayed conscious as opposed to going into panic mode, and I'm fine. I'm fine.
We're fine. And I think there's
Yes.
got to be this voice of reason with everything that's going on.
Yes.
So do me a
Yes.
favor. Let's talk about my intro. I did the whole money thing, but the coronavirus and everybody living from this fear-based, we had to address it. So now
Yes.
let's talk about something a lot more fun like money.
Money.
I
Well,
love
and
money. So
yes.
how we're talking about this visualization, right? And coming from fear and all, like I don't have enough money, perhaps. But how can someone visualize? How could someone visualize and actually increase income? How does that happen?
Sure, sure. Well, and this reminds me of not number one thing that we did speak of before we got the interview going, as well as something that came up in a presentation that I gave to a group of real estate agents. And I explained to them, I said, listen, when was the last time the market tanked? And everybody said, oh my God, it was the real estate crash of 2008. You know, the whole market bottomed out. Everybody lost their shirts, yada, yada, yada. And I said, well, is everybody still afraid of that happening? And they said, of course. And I said, what if we flipped that whole paradigm and looked at that as the greatest opportunity that could possibly happen in the future? And they all looked at me with this weird look. And I said, think about this. I said, when was also the greatest opportunity to buy real estate? It was the crash of 2008. I mean, I personally, and I shared the story. I mean, I went out and bought property after property for pennies on the dollar that are now worth 5, 6, 7 times that amount that I paid for them originally. Yeah. So there, I think for the listeners would be the first place to start. No matter where you are financially, you can improve it by simply now going, where are the opportunities? And then once you say, okay, here are the opportunities, and right now we are experiencing the greatest opportunity right now. Because if you go on the stock market, stocks are selling at pennies, once again, pennies on the dollar. So once you see those opportunities, then you start visualizing on how those opportunities are going to manifest in your life. And as you do this, and once again, there's so many people just blow this stuff off as woo-woo fairy dust ideas. But once you put it into practice and suspend your skepticism for a little bit, you will start seeing those opportunities start to manifest and actually become a reality in your life for you to take advantage of. That's how visualization works. And the word visualization, I was a little maybe worried about using that word with the book. Because a lot of people go, well, I tried this stuff, but I didn't get any mental pictures. It really doesn't matter if you get an actual mental picture of, say, if you did an experiment, which is in the book, imagine a red fire truck. Well, if you actually don't see it, it's not really a big deal, but you might sense it, right? Regardless of the fact, you're forming that within your mind. And it's funny how this is an analogy. If somebody goes to buy a car and is thinking about buying a car, maybe it's a red Corvette, right? They've never seen a red Corvette at all until they started thinking about it. And then they see one every 3 miles, right? It's the same process. And I swear to God, I promise to all the listeners, that's exactly what will happen in their lives.
And what's funny? I mean, I've been doing this visualization, and your book is spot on, and you give so many great exercises. But I've been doing this. I turned 40, so I guess about 18 years. I've really been living that visualization. Look for the opportunity in whatever the situation is. So don't come from a place of fear, but really examine it with logic and say, well, okay, this is the reality. This isn't the reality. And now how can I spin that? So it's just so funny. We were just talking about digital. That you can't do digital, unfortunately. You still have to do live. Most of my clients, I go live and I do the training for their clients to teach them how to sell, more effectively and communicate with their customers. So now everybody's canceling. So if I don't work, I don't get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid.
Right. Exactly.
This is just the reality. But it's funny because last year I sat down and I wrote a book, and it's actually going to come out April of 2020, 7 Steps to Sales Success. But with that, I feel that there is a huge population, Jimmy, entrepreneurs that know their product or service, but they don't know how to get it out and communicate it for people who actually need it, because they feel like they're being pushy, or they're, oh, I can't talk about that. Well, how are you going to make money? It's okay to make money. So I started looking, and I hired people because I don't know how to do this because I'm older, but we're creating a digital platform. So yesterday, one of my clients, she said, Con, we're going to put everything on hold. And I'm like, it's cool. It's all good. And I said,
Yep.
I'm working on digital stuff. Your training department is working on digital stuff. We're going to keep talking. Let's figure out how can we continue to thrive and train and give people what they need to do the job, because we still have to run the business on the back end, right? I need to create that digital. So I have to educate myself. I started this, it's got to be eight months ago. So now this is why I'm telling you this, Jimmy. Why did I think to do this last year? And now the opportunity is here and I'm already ahead on the learning curve because
yes.
you understand where I'm going.
You put it out there.
I live and breathe what I practice, and that visualization is, I'm getting older. How can I continue to do and thrive what I'm doing? I can't train 4 days a week anymore. This traveling physically, listening to people, it wears you down, your own personal health. Well, that's not good. So we have to shift to these other modalities of teaching and, whatever we're doing. But you have to live and breathe it, and it happens. And all of a sudden, things like this, now this digital, I'm already ahead on the learning curve. Yeah, is there going to be a ding in my income initially? Sure. I'm confident that it's, like you said, my clients aren't saying, go away, we're not ever hiring you again. It's just breathe, and I think we're forgetting, you said it before, to be in the present. So talk about, to me, that's a belief system, right? So that's my next question. How do our beliefs create, and let's continue to talk about the wealth component. How do we do that?
Well, once again, it gets back to that there's an actual physical change that happens in your mind when you think a thought. It's called synaptic connections. Now, when you combine a thought with emotion, now you're really, really strengthening that synaptic connection to make that a reality within your mind. That way, your brain is set up to start noticing what you're thinking about. Whatever you're focused on, you will see more of, right? So if you want to get back into creating wealth through visualization and taking that next step, once again, being present is so key. Just as we were speaking with a little bit before, being aware that, okay, my business hasn't tanked. Sure, this is a blip in the road, but I will get past it. And just as you were saying, once you put that belief is in, even if you don't know the answer to it whatsoever, but just ask the universe the question, how can I improve my business so the next time this happens, I'm already, like you said, past that learning curve and already set up to prosper from it. Your mind will go to work to find the solution.
Absolutely.
And the solution, there's a law, and I can't think of the actual law, but it's not quite the law of reciprocation, but it's not possible to think a thought or ask a question without the answer also being present.
So it's the law of attraction.
That's very important to know.
The law of attraction?
Well, it's not the law of attraction. It's a different law, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but I can't. It's not reciprocation either. But it's very, very important for everybody to understand that you can't have a thought or a question or a need without the answer also being present. Because if that solution wasn't present, you wouldn't be able to answer the question.
Sure.
Right? So if you simply ask yourself the question, okay, my business is in a slump, or I want to make more money, I want to expand my business, whatever that question is for you, then that answer is also present as well. So what I would recommend, and I've done this many times and it just happens, is that when you go to sleep at night, you're automatically going into the hypnosis states, right? Which is theta and alpha. So in those states, as you're going to sleep at night, you're entering into alpha, and you start saying to yourself, I request from my subconscious mind and the universe the answer to this question, right? And you just let it go. You just program it into your subconscious mind to seek the answer, and boom, let it go. Don't put a timetable on it. Let it happen naturally. And I promise that the answer will come. And it might not come as a thought. It might come as it just appears in front of you. When I got into hypnosis, I had been a professional entertainer for my whole entire life. I played in rock bands for years and years and years, traveled all across Canada and US playing in rock bands. Then once the live music industry fell apart, I thought, well, what am I going to do? I put it out there. Next thing you know, it's like, well, DJing is a big business. So I created a DJ business, turned that into a top 5 within my area, and just made a great living off that for maybe 10 plus years. And then I got bored and I thought, you know what? I still want to entertain. I still want to be on stage. I still want to be in front of people. I want to educate people, and I want somebody else to pay for it. And I want to tour all over North America. And I had no idea how to do that because the rock and roll band industry was done. The DJ business was down to kids on their iPods. And I thought, how am I going to do this and make a great living? So I simply put it out to the universe. That was my request. Be on stage, travel North America, and get paid for it. Show me how. And I just put it out there. Now, here's something that I learned, that most times once you start into visualization, simple visualizations will show up fairly quickly. Big ones, not so much. This one probably took maybe 10 months to manifest. But then one day, boom, there it was. And the start of my hypnosis career was learn how to be a stage hypnotist. And so as soon as I saw it, I knew that was my answer. I took advantage. I took action. I flew out to Vegas, got trained by the biggest guys. And 10 years later, I mean, I'm one of the top guys in my field. So when you use visualization and you put your skepticism aside, it just naturally comes to you.
And that's hard, man. That's hard for people to
I know.
put.
Well, and here's the thing, and you're so correct, is that because we've been trained that this stuff doesn't work. Like it's a bunch of hooey, it's a bunch of nonsense, it's woo-woo fairy dust. Don't believe that. Just get up every day, punch your card, and put in your time and collect your paycheck and be happy about it. It just simply doesn't work. There's so many more options.
There's so many more options, but we look at life in this tunnel vision, and it's dangerous. And
Yep.
I'm really trying to get I have a 20 and a 23-year-old that, just because this is all you see doesn't mean that's all there is. That's your filter, that's your perspective, that's your life experience, which is limited right now. There's so much more going on out there, but you have to be open and aware to say, wait a minute, what else is there, so that you start to expand that visual path.
Yes.
And I think that's the danger, that we put those blinders on and no, this is the way it is. That stubbornness
Yep.
is gonna hurt you. And listen, Jimmy, I'm a control freak, man. If I could control the weather, sign me up. So you're talking to a control freak, but I understand you have to surrender to things that are beyond your control and really allow things to come into your life. And that's not an easy thing to do. And go ahead. People don't want to put the time in.
You're so right that giving up of the control of what's in front of you for the acceptance of getting back to the unknown. Sure. And once again, this is a human fear that we're all born with. When we step into this world, one of our first emotions is the fear of the unknown, because we don't know what's going to happen, right? And we are at the mercy of everybody that is surrounding us from as soon as we, are born up until the ages of, maybe teenagers, right? We're in everybody else's control. So for that transition to happen, basically you have to go back and say, okay, I need to be able to trust something I can't see, I can't smell, I can't taste, I can't touch, and just go, bring it on. Like, show me what this is. And that is a huge leap for most of the population.
Yeah, and it's hard, and everybody, with everything going on with the coronavirus, I know people. I mean, my first instinct, Jimmy, I'll be honest, called my husband. I said, they're canceling classes. He's losing his job. Thank God he has a package, so we'll be fine. But we need my income. I have a kid in college. We have a mortgage. It's not not like we have $1 bazillion in the bank. And my first instinct is, what we have to watch every penny. What are we going to do? And in my second breath, right after I did my panic, by the time I got home, I said to him, we're going to be fine. And he's like, I know. And I said, Rupp, we're going to be fine. They're not canceling because they don't love me or they don't want me because they don't see the value in what I do. It's a temporary blip. we're going to be fine.
Yep.
We just have to watch our dollars now for a little bit. That's all, right? So you just,
Yep.
but that, I have to be honest, that initial panic was, what am I going to do? I don't work, I don't get paid. That was the first thought. So everybody listening, like, we understand that, especially now with this pandemic going on, we're coming from this, it's easy to come from a place of fear. I want to ask you a question. I want you to maybe talk people through this. So again, money, I think, and wealth is a good place to go because we all want more. We're human, okay? How can someone, so they're listening and going, yeah, man, I've got bad beliefs in there. How can we help them break the cycle of what, let's say, limiting beliefs specifically about money? Is there something you recommend?
Well, it would really depend on the personal beliefs around money, but everybody has the basic ones. And I really would suggest, first of all, to start doing an inner dialogue check. What I mean by that is that each one of us were obviously raised by parents who didn't get an instruction manual when we were born. There was no parenting 101 classes other than here's how to change a diaper type of thing.
Yep.
And start running through all the things that your parents told you as a child around money. And the common ones are, we can't afford it. We don't have the money. I'll buy that. Maybe we'll be able to do it next year. Whatever those little phrases that you remember your parents saying to you, well, guess what? You've already adopted them, whether you want to admit it or realize it or not. Yeah. And that is the place to start, because that has formed your money mindset in a subconscious level that you're operating on, once again, whether you choose to believe it or not. And I would definitely suggest this, write them all down.
Sure.
Because if you think about it and you hear your parents saying it to you in your head, what are you doing? You're simply just reinforcing it again, right? If you say, okay, I remember and I distinctly, this is one from my dad. I saw this little race car at the toy store, and I might have been 5 or 6. And I said, Dad, can you buy me that? He goes, well, I really don't. Yeah, I can't really afford it right now, or whatever it was. But it was something to that effect. And I thought, holy crap.
We're poor.
Because, and here was the realization, because I remember saying that to myself when I was actually looking at I think it was a motorcycle, and I thought, can I really afford this? And all of a sudden his words were in my head. And I thought, wow, okay, there's a wake up call. So if you think back to all the things that your parents have said to you around money, write it down on a piece of paper. Once you write it down on a piece of paper, it holds no power over you anymore, because now you can see it from a rational perspective, a conscious mindset presence, and then ask yourself this, is that really true? Is that really true? And 9 times out of 10, unless it's like, well, I want to buy a McMansion or something like that, maybe that might be, I can't afford that right now. But if it's like, well, I don't have money for my utility bill this week, meanwhile, yes, you do. Now you're going, okay, I'm just calling my own bluff, and this is not really true. Following that, then now you take those exact statements and then you flip them and write out, okay, what's the positive opposite of that? I can afford this. I do have the money. I can invest in my business. I can invest in my education. I can expand. I can open up this new advertising platform that's going to bring in more money. Here was a big one that I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs with around advertising. Oh my God. Like, they have these great ideas. They've got a basic client base, and they go, well, I can't figure out how to expand. And I said, well, how are you getting the word out? Well, I'm not. I said, well, why not? Well, that costs money. I said, well, isn't that the point, that you want to make money? Well, yes. I said, well, you realize that in order to get the word out, it's going to cost you money. Yeah, well, that's expensive. And I said, yes, but would you not want to trade? If I was to give you $1, or if you were to give me $1 and I gave you $1,000 back for every dollar that you gave me, would you do it? And they said, of course. I said, well, then why aren't you advertising? Why aren't you spending money on marketing promotional campaigns? because, and I looked at it too. I do everything from postcard marketing to Google ads. I spend thousands of dollars on marketing, and every time I get my bill, I go, woohoo, look how much money I spent, because I know then I put that dollar amount compared to the income that's coming in, and I go all day, every day. All day, every day.
It's funny. Yep. I just crack it up. We're almost out of time, but I shared a story yesterday with the group, and I said, we're so afraid to spend money, right? Because I got that poverty mentality. I don't have enough.
Yep.
And I remember when my business started growing, my kids got a little older, so I was traveling more. And when they were little, I didn't want to, so I was in more control of the business. So now they're grown, I'm expanding, and business is thriving, and I was overwhelmed. Cleaning the house, cooking, food shop, all these things that still as a mom, right? I'm still a mom and wife. And I remember having like a breakdown with my husband going, I can't do everything. I'm not superwoman, blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and he goes, well, what do you want? What can you give up? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And he said to me, let's hire a cleaning lady. What, are you crazy? Now you're talking about spending more money. And then he looked at me and he goes, stop. How many hours do you spend cleaning a month? So it was, let's say it's a half a day every Saturday. So 4 hours times 16 hours. And he goes, in that 16 hours, if you were working to generate money, writing blogs, whatever it is, where it could create money, how much is that 16 hours worth? What's your hourly rate? And when I sat down and figured it out, and he goes, and how much is a cleaning lady? I go, we're hiring a cleaning lady immediately.
It's funny how once you consciously look at it, right, then it all goes, this makes no sense. Let's just do it.
Yep. So that's what we do. And I did it too. You out of your mind. Now you're talking about spending more money.
But I've got something interesting that I need to ask you about that though. Yeah. So you've got the cleaning lady now, right?
Sure.
Okay. Now that first time or two when the cleaning lady came over and started doing what you've been doing for the last umpteen years, how did you feel about that?
Well, it was interesting. And somebody said to me, boy, I wouldn't want to clean your house again, because I'm a control freak and I like things a certain way. And so the first time I was looking, did they do that? I was almost trying to find fault in what they did. And
you could get your gig back, right?
Exactly.
I knew it.
See, I should have been the one cleaning. Isn't that funny? And then I'm going to say maybe the second time, because they really did a nice job. The second time I thought, why didn't I frickin' do this so much sooner? I should have been doing this for years, because it's a waste of my time personally, because I was always a working mom, starting a business. It's a lie. And you think I could do it. You can't do everything. And you said that on the onset, Jimmy. We have to ask for help. We have to start changing how we look at things, and not afraid to hire people or bring people in to do what needs to be done. That's really the essence. It doesn't always have to be you and I doing what we need to do for our business. We need experts to come in.
Well, and this is the thing that I find, especially with leaders of business, when they're making that transition into letting things go, oh my God, it's like they're losing their left arm, right? Because but this is mine. I need to hold. It's mine. I know I will be so much more prosperous if I can let it go, but it's mine, right? I've done it for so long. It feels like you're really losing your left arm. You're losing something.
But that's the control piece, and that's why the listeners. Piece, I hope they're listening, because and for the people that know me, and I'm sure the people that know you, I am a control freak. So for me to be able to do the visualization and bring things into my life when I tell you zero effort, like this show, he found me, the owner of Web Talk found me. And now, almost 7 years later, it's an international show. I have people like you. We've never met, right? Just people have connected with me that have brought you and I together. It's a remarkable thing. But I surrendered because I thought, I don't know how to find people across the world. It'll come to me. Something will come to me. And then all of a sudden, publicists and PR people, and there it was. And as I was asking, how'd you find me? Because I'm thinking, I didn't do anything. They were like, oh, you were on some wire. You were on this. No idea how it got out there, Jimmy, but my name got out there. And inevitably, I have people all across the world listening, and guests like you on the show. You really do have to believe. And I guess that's...
Well, yes, believe and trust. Faith and belief go hand in hand.
Agreed.
Hand in hand. Because I mean, it's one thing to believe, oh yeah, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, da 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 da. But if you don't have faith in, okay, I'm just gonna put it out there, and I have faith that it will come back, then you're only 50% of the way.
Equation.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting.
exactly.
We're out of time, but everybody, I'm telling you, you have to buy this book. Jimmy gives such great examples, such great tools, really, to do the visualization. But the examples, I think, are helpful, like the ones you shared on the show, because everybody could go back. And here's the other thing, Jimmy. All of us have money issues. If you go back, because most of our parents or grandparents have lived through the Depression. We all have money issues because that verbiage of we don't have enough, money doesn't grow on trees. I can't afford that now. Maybe if I get that promotion next year, right? All of those, we've all heard the same things, right?
Yes.
I love that. Write it down. Really look at it on paper because now it has no value or energy to it. It's on paper. Is it real? And 9 times out of 10, it's real. Again, unless you want to buy a mansion for $1 billion and you got $1,000 in the bank, it's a ridiculous wish. So, we're not saying that this is the genie in the bottle. You have to have a little bit of a reality check as well. So everybody read it. Master Your Matrix. How to use visualization to create a life of health, wealth, and happiness. And I don't know about you, but I want all of the above. So check out Jimmy's book, seriously, right? And go to his website, a bunch of information there. It's MindPower Presentations, plural.com, and I will post it on Web Talk Radio so you guys can find him. Check him out on his website. Maybe hire him, start to book him after this coronavirus is gone so that he could come to your business or location and do some really cool hypnosis to show you that this stuff really does work and it isn't woo-woo and fairy dust. Agree 100%.